Story 1. All right, let's dive deeper into this roller coaster of a situation. So, our marriage kicked off like 3 years ago. Everything seemed hunky-dory until about a year back when I started sniffing around and got this whiff of something fishy. I'd spot this dude's car parked outside our place, and it just didn't sit right with me. So, what do? I pulled a move any sane person would, hired a pie to dig up some dirt. And guess what? My gut instinct was bang on. Turns out, my wife was getting cozy with one of her coworkers. Man, I was seething with rage. To add more fuel to the fire, the dude's wife hits me up out of the blue, dropping the bomb that she's on to their little rendezvous. She didn't have much to go on, just some text, but I had the solid proof, pictures of their little trysts. So we decide to team up, confront our cheating partners. We're having these clandestine meetings, plotting our moves, and somewhere in those discussions, the idea of revenge pops into our heads. Yeah, revenge sex. It sounded like the perfect retaliation. And let me tell you, it was one hell of a rush. Can't deny that. Now I'm stuck in this whirlwind affair with the coworker's wife. She's something else, man. A whole different vibe from my wife in all the right ways, if you catch my drift. And here's the kicker, my wife? She's out there throwing shade at the coworker's wife, mocking her appearance and whatnot. Real classy, right? She even had the gall to hurl my fertility issues in my face, questioning my manhood. Like, who does that? But you know what? I ain't shedding any tears over this affair. Honestly, I'm feeling more connected with the coworker's wife. She's all in for things my wife barely even considers. Yeah, I'm talking about that. Meanwhile, my wife's expecting me to perform miracles, but she ain't putting in any effort on her end. Go figure. So, me and the coworker's wife were toying with the idea of spilling the beans to her husband. We got so wrapped up in this revenge plot, it's like we're addicted or something. And as for my wife, I'm gearing up to drop the divorce bomb. Thankfully, we don't have much joint baggage, so it should be a pretty clean split. But the coworker's wife? She's got a rocky road ahead, especially with their kids in the mix. But she's ready to dive headfirst into the storm. I know I might sound like a real piece of work right now, but honestly, I'm mentally checked out of this marriage. It is what it is. Update, so let me tell you about dropping the divorce bomb on my wife. It went down on July 16th, and let me tell you, it took some serious prep work to get all my ducks lined up before I went for it. You know? I decided to serve her the papers right at her workplace, just to throw a curveball into the mix. When she rocked up back home, her bags were already packed and ready to go. Gave her the boot and pointed her in the direction of her dad's place to crash. Now, you can probably guess what came next. She pulled out all the stops, the begging, the apologizing, even trying to shift the blame onto me for her little escapade. But hey, I saw it coming a mile away, so I was ready for the whole spiel. She's dead set on sticking around, blabbering on about fixing our marriage. But here's the kicker, the house? Yeah, it ain't hers. It's under my folks' names. So I made it crystal clear, if she ain't packing her bags on her own, I'll dial up my parents and have her escorted out. I even tried reaching out to her sister, thinking maybe she could talk some sense into her. But nope, she decided to play the blame game too, pointing the finger at me for giving up too easily. That's when I couldn't help but serve up a little truth bomb, reminded her about her own little scandal, ditching her husband for his own cousin. Talk about a double standard, right? Got a slap in the face for my troubles, but I gave her fair warning, one more chance, or it's time to get the law involved. After she stormed off, the floodgates opened with text from her. Didn't block her though, because I wanted to gather up some evidence, you know what I mean? Started off with the apologies, but soon enough she flipped the script, claiming she never got any enjoyment out of getting down and dirty with me, and started spilling some beans about her and her fling getting cozy all over our place. Now, I ain't sure how much of that's true, but I figure it might be time for some new furniture regardless. Had this urge to spill the beans about the affair partner's wife and how we messed up her ride, but I held back. Last time we spoke, her apologies seemed a bit more genuine. But man, this whole situation's got me feeling like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, you know what I mean? My soon-to-be ex, she spills the beans, confessing she got swept away by this desire to have kids. Yeah, you heard me right. She was all about staying child-free, but now she's got this ticking biological clock nagging at her. She owned up to it, saying I've been the best darn partner and hubby one could ask for, but she wants more. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? We could have looked into adoption, sperm banks, you name it. But nope, she drops the bomb, says she's pregnant. And let me tell ya, I knew right then and there that kid wasn't mine. If I hadn't uncovered her little fling, she'd probably be parading this pregnancy around like some miracle baby. So I put on my best fake smile, congratulated her, wished her a swell pregnancy. But deep down, I'm just ready to slam the door on this chapter of my life. Divorce? Yeah, let's wrap it up pronto. As for the other woman in this mess, the affair partner's wife, she's serving her husband with divorce papers too. Girl ain't backing down, seeking what's rightfully hers. We've had a few heart-to-hearts, and let me tell you, she's kicking herself for wasting her prime years on that sorry excuse for a man. She even ditched her modeling gig for him. Can you believe it? But hey, she's still rocking it. We've been laying low, not in touch much. Except for this one time, she sent me this kinda suggestive text after a few drinks. I shut that down real quick. I mean, come on, we're knee-deep in divorce drama here. Ain't nobody got time for that. But hey, on the bright side, I got myself a new furry companion. Yup, adopted a cat. My soon-to-be ex couldn't stand the furballs, so now my place is gonna be a cat paradise. Silver linings, right? Story 2, all right. Let me dive deeper into the story for you. So picture this, right? My younger bro, Mark, used to be all wrapped up with my fiancée, Jen. Yeah, I know it sounds like something straight out of a drama series. This whole saga went down back in August 2022, but it fizzled out faster than a wet firecracker, barely lasted a month. Mark, bless his heart, isn't exactly the settling down type. Got bored and decided to call it quits. Now, here's the curveball. I had no clue about any of this. I was out of state at the time, living my life, not even aware of Jen's existence. Fast forward to October, I'm back in town, hitting up this local bar, and boom, there she is. Jen. The most captivating and sharp-witted woman I've ever laid eyes on. We hit it off, start hanging out, and before you know it, we're officially an item. Come December, I figure it's about time for Jen to meet the fam. So I bring her along to our Christmas bash. Now my folks, they're all buzzing with curiosity, passing my phone around, eager to catch a glimpse of the new lady in my life. And then it happens. Mark catches sight of Jen's photo and loses his cool. Starts ranting about how I'm a lousy brother for dating his ex. But hey, I sit down with Jen, get the lowdown on their breakup, and eventually, Mark calms down. Everything's smooth sailing until Jen's birthday creeps up on us. I whisk her away for this fancy dinner with our families and friends, get down on one knee, and bam, Mark's back at it again, giving me grief for popping the question to Jen. But me and my sisters, we shut that noise down real quick. Now, here's where the plot thickens. Just last weekend, out of the blue, Mark extends an invitation for Jen and me to join him for a family dinner at his place. Kinda odd, but with my folks and sisters in tow, we figure, why not? Dinner's relaxed, nothing too extravagant, and we head to the living room for some casual conversation. We're all chilling, having a regular old family gathering. Mark, my bro, he suddenly pipes up, talking about how great it is to have everyone together for a big moment. Next thing you know, he's dropping to one knee, whipping out this tacky ring, and popping the question to Jen. Now, Jen? She's looking like a deer caught in headlights, totally thrown off and uncomfortable. She straight up tells him to shove that ring away and stand up. Now, I ain't one to stand by and watch my girl get put in an awkward spot. So before Dad could even step in, I let Mark have it. Yeah, I threw a punch. Can't even remember half of what Mark blabbered about because I was seething with rage. But from what I gathered, he was trying to prove some nonsense about Jen not being into me and using me to stick it to him. Like, seriously? Anyway, my folks swoop in, drag me out, promising to have a chat with Mark. But let me tell you, it's been days, and I'm still fuming. I mean, what the heck am I supposed to do now? I'm worried Jen might have second thoughts about tying the knot with me after that whole circus. Now, let me address a few things folks brought up in the comments. Jen and we're fresh in this engagement game, but it just felt right, you know? And yeah, I was the one who made the first move when we met. As for Jen and Mark's past, she swears she had no clue about their history, and honestly, I believe her. But Mark's over-the-top reaction? That's got me questioning some things. Me and Mark? We used to be tight, but life happened, and we drifted apart. Barely talked unless it was a birthday or something. And as for Jen and Mark's dynamic, there wasn't any lingering spark from what I could see. Sure, they knew each other, but it wasn't like they were pining for the past. Now, about proposing without Mark's blessing? Maybe I stepped on some toes there, but I'm still on the fence about that. Either way, I'm planning to sit down with Mark, hash things out, and get his side of the story. Admittedly, I should have dug deeper into their past before all this mess went down. My bad. Update, I hit up Mark, told him to swing by my place for a chat. Mentioned I'd prefer to have Jen there too, but hey, if he wanted to go solo, that's cool too. So he rolls up around noon, and let me tell you, it's awkward city for a hot minute. But hey, someone's got to break the ice, right? That someone was me. I start off with some apologies, for not giving him a heads up about popping the question to Jen and for, that little scuffle we had. Mark, he's all like, yeah, whatever, but at least he's acknowledging it. Then I dive into the nitty-gritty, sharing what Jen spilled about their past fling. I wanted him to confirm if her story lines up with reality. 'Cause let's face it, Mark's been a bit extra throughout this whole mess, and I needed to make sure I wasn't missing something. Turns out, their thing barely lasted a few weeks, and Mark was the one who pulled the plug 'cause he got bored. Classic Mark move, right? But then Jen hits him with the real talk, asking if he's still hung up on her. Mark's like, nah, girl, I'm good. Sure, he admits she's looking fine these days, but he ain't got no lingering feelings or regrets. Fair enough, right? But then he goes on about how he wasn't thrilled about his lil bro dating his ex, even if it was just a blip on the radar. Thinks I should have backed off, 'cause family ties and all. I remind him I was clueless about their history, but he ain't having it. Swears he would have done the same if the roles were reversed. Then things take a weird turn. Mark spills about this theory his buddies cooked up, thinking Jen might be playing some revenge game. Apparently, they cooked up this plan for Mark to propose to her, see if she'd pick him over me. Jen's like, hold up, what? Ain't too pleased about being accused of pulling some revenge plot. And honestly, who can blame her? But Mark, he's not backing down. Throws out this half-hearted apology, but still wants her to see where he's coming from. Jen, she lays it out plain and simple. She didn't clock our family connection till we were all in the same room. And let's be real, our personalities are as different as night and day. Mark, he takes it in, and we wrap things up. So Mark drops this bombshell on his way out, saying he might retract his wedding invitation, 'cause he ain't down with our relationship, given his history with Jen. And I'm like, chill bro, you're not even gonna need that invite. 'Cause let's be real, he's practically uninvited already. After our chat, I'm feeling a bit lighter. Sure, the Rents weren't exactly thrilled about Mark getting the boot, but they get where I'm coming from. My sisters? They're backing me up, no questions asked. They reckon Mark's got no valid excuse for his antics, and they're cool with him being a no-show at the wedding. As for me and Mark, well, let's just say we're keeping our distance. No texts, no calls, just the occasional awkward family gathering. Mom, though? She's still got her knickers in a twist about Mark missing out on the wedding. The topic comes up during Sophie's birthday bash. She's blabbing about her dream wedding plans, and then drops this bomb about Mark not being invited to mine. Smooth, soft, real smooth. I play it cool, assure her it's all good, but Mom's giving me the side eye. Wants to know if Mark's still on the outs. I'm like, yep, he's out of luck. Mom's not having it, thinks I'm being petty. I remind her it was a mutual decision, and this ain't the time to hash out wedding drama. Sophie's not having it either, shuts Mom down real quick. But Mom's not done yet. Pays me a visit a few days later, wants to have another round of wedding chat. She's all, why you gotta be so uptight about Mark? Thinks I'm being insecure about him and Jen's past fling. But let's set the record straight. I'm not about to let Mark crash my wedding party. So I gave my mom the lowdown on why Mark wasn't getting an invite to the wedding. I made it crystal clear. It was a mutual decision between me and Mark. But guess what? Mama wasn't having any of it. She pulls out the big guns, threatens to skip the wedding if Mark's not there, claiming I'm excluding her son. Talk about drama, right? But here's the kicker. I wasn't about to bend over backward just to please her. So I hit her with a casual shrug and told her straight up, if that's how you want to play it, feel free to toss that invite. I ain't begging. She throws back, asking if I'd really be cool with her skipping the shindig. And you know what? I laid it out plain and simple. It ain't the first time she's missed out on one of my gigs thanks to Mark's antics. Next thing I know, my phone's blowing up with messages and calls from her and the fam, all telling me I'm the bad guy here. They're pulling the ol' invite Mark to keep the peace card. Like, seriously? Ain't nobody got time for that. And get this, Mom's even hitting up Jen, trying to get her to play mediator. But from what I've heard, Jen ain't taking the bait. She's keeping her distance from that drama. Smart move if you ask me. So, now we're in this weird standoff. Mom's side of the fam is throwing a tantrum, threatening to bail on the wedding. Meanwhile, Dad, his crew, my sisters, Jen's fam, they're all still in the game. It's like a game of family chess, and I'm just trying to keep my cool. Oh, and I had a chat with Mark too. Dude's as chill as ever, basically telling me to keep him out of the mess. He's washing his hands of the whole ordeal, and honestly, I don't blame him. As for me and Mom, yeah, we're keeping things frosty. I'm sticking to low contact mode for now. Dad gets it though. He's cool with how I'm handling it. But hey, here's the kicker. Jen and I are thinking about scaling down the wedding. With Mom's crew bailing, it's looking like we might need a smaller venue. But hey, less drama, right? And then, out of the blue, about 2 weeks later, Mom swings by. Says she wants to chat, clear the air and all that jazz. We sit down for dinner and I'm like, all right, spill it. Turns out, she's still hung up on Mark not getting an invite. I hit her with the cold, hard truth. Mark's blunder with the proposal ain't something I'm just going to sweep under the rug. Jen's there too, and she's keeping it real. Tells Mom straight up that this ain't a convo she'd be having even if I was off at work. And then, out of nowhere, Mom drops this bomb, implying that Jen can't hold her own in a convo without me holding her hand. Talk about throwing fuel on the fire, right? Well, Jen wasn't about to let that slide. She fired back, telling Mom to hit the road. But did Mom listen? Nope. She starts losing it, screaming like a banshee, accusing Jen of tearing our fam apart. And then, things took a turn for the worse. Mom goes full on berserk mode. She lunges at Jen, grabs her by the hair, and brings her crashing down to the ground, still yelling her head off. It was like something out of a movie, I kid you not. Now, I couldn't just stand there and watch, right? So I step in, pull Mom off Jen, and hustle her out the door. But she's not done yet. Nope. She starts pounding on the door, like a crazy person. Once I knew Jen was safe, I shot Mom a text, telling her to back off. Ain't nobody got time for her drama. And then, I called up Dad and my sisters, filled them in on the whole circus act. Dad's acting all surprised, making excuses for Mom left and right. But my sisters? They're not shocked one bit. They know Mom's got a screw loose. As for Jen, she's shaken up, but she's holding her own. She's not looking to stir the pot any further, even though my sisters and I think involving the cops might be a good idea. But hey, it's her call. Oh, and as for my rocky relationship with Mom, let's just say it's been a roller coaster ride. Mom always had a soft spot for my brother Mark, leaving the rest of us in the dust. Quality family time? Nah, we were lucky if we even got a sitter. Man, growing up with Mark was like living in some twisted version of Cinderella. I mean, my parents always seemed to have a soft spot for him, you know? They'd go all out, showering him with gifts and special treats, while the rest of us got the short end of the stick. I still remember those shopping trips, where Mom and Dad would whisk Mark away to buy him all the latest gear, leaving us behind. And don't even get me started on the toys. Mark got the fancy, brand spankin', new ones, while we had to make do with hand-me-downs or stuff we'd find at the thrift store. And forget about touching his stuff. That was off limits. His toys were like sacred artifacts or something. But here's the real kicker. Whenever Mark acted up, guess who got the blame? Yours truly. Yeah, you heard that right. If he broke his toys or got into trouble at school, it was somehow my fault for not being a good role model. Like, seriously? I tried to set things straight, though. When I hit 13, I figured it was time to hustle for some cash, so I asked for an allowance. And you know what? Mom and Dad agreed, on one condition: I had to earn it. So I busted my butt doing chores around the house, thinking I was on the road to financial freedom. But then, Mark caught wind of my sweet deal and begged for an allowance too. And you know what my folks did? They took most of my allowance and handed it over to him. No questions asked. Talk about a slap in the face. That's when I started putting some serious distance between me and the golden child. By the time high school rolled around, we were like ships passing in the night, only talking when absolutely necessary. I thought things would get better when I got my first job at 17. I was saving up for my own wheels, dreaming of the day I could cruise around town in my very own ride. But of course, when Mark got his driver's license, suddenly, my car became fair game. Mom even had the nerve to suggest I hand it over to him, like it was some kind of charity case. Well, I put my foot down. I worked my tail off for that car, and there was no way I was just going to hand it over to him on a silver platter. But Mom wasn't having it. She threatened to kick me out if I didn't play ball. So that night, things got pretty heated between us. She ended up leaving a mark on my card, basically forcing me to transfer ownership within a few days. I didn't really have any other options at the time, so I just went along with it, albeit reluctantly. When I graduated from high school, both my parents decided to skip the ceremony. Mark didn't want to sit through it just to watch me grab a diploma. My mom didn't want to leave him alone for the night, so I only had the support of my sisters, aunt, and uncle, who were all keen to take me out and celebrate. But alas, we had to cut the celebration short because my parents wanted me home for dinner to make up for missing the ceremony. However, I couldn't eat a bite because my mom had mixed shrimp and chicken on the same plate, and you know, I'm allergic to shellfish. In my first year after high school, I hustled with 2 jobs to save up and buy myself another car. When the new school year rolled in, I moved away for college and decided to cut ties with my parents. They, especially my mom, tried reaching out through social media and even through my sister Sophie, but I ignored them. I even warned Sophie that I'd cut her off too if she kept trying to mediate. Mom then tried contacting my older sister Charlotte and a few times through Maggie and Mark. I even threatened to file a restraining order, but honestly, it was just a bluff because I had no clue how to do it. Nonetheless, it managed to scare her off, and the most I heard from her were occasional holiday texts. Around the time I moved back, Charlotte told me they had been seeing a family therapist at her request, and my parents wanted to apologize for how they treated us. I was skeptical but agreed to hear them out, as long as they were sincere. Reconciliation wasn't easy, given all they put me through. When I met Jen, I wasn't sure where things were headed, neither with her nor with my parents. I avoided talking about my family because I was ready to cut ties again if needed. But Jen was understanding about it, didn't push for more details. Now, on to the updates. We decided to file a report with the police. They told us that even though Jen doesn't want to pursue legal action, it's not solely up to us to decide whether it should go further. They promised to mull over what we wanted. We loaded them up with evidence, pics of Jen's bruises, texts flying back and forth between me and my folks hashing out the whole mess. Cops said we should report any more run-ins with my mom, just to have it all on record. We don't figure much will come of it, but hey, better to have something than zilch, right? Got a barrage of like 100 rage-fueled texts, so at least they've had a chat with my mom about what went down. She tried to corner me after work, went off the rails about how I was supposedly ruining her life, called me the worst son ever for even thinking about getting her in trouble over some dumb mix-up. Couldn't grasp why she was facing consequences. I had to remind her, if she didn't want a taste of trouble, she shouldn't have laid a finger on Jen. She wanted me to ditch the report, but I stood my ground, told her it was out of my hands, just like the cop said. She flipped in the parking lot, even took a swing at me before security stepped in and carted her off. Had to give my boss the lowdown when I got back. Luckily, she got where I was coming from. Then, when I got home, I filled Jen in on the whole shebang. She was rightfully pissed and suggested we figure out how to handle my family from here on out. We had a marathon chat, took some pointers from the Reddit crowd, and decided to pull the plug on all contact with my family, except for my sisters. Both of us were on the same page. Having them around was just stirring up unnecessary stress, especially since we ain't even hitched yet. Jen brought up the idea of moving away, putting some real distance between us and my folks. She'd been trying to stay clear of the family drama, thinking it wasn't her place to get involved. But she wasn't about to put up with my mom's nonsense or my dad's backing her up any longer. That chat we had with Jen, it was a marathon. Too much to shove into this little space. But Jen, she nailed it right on the head. My family's more trouble than they're worth. I'm fed up with the whole circus, and she's right there with me. We're eyeing therapy, and Jen's on the hunt for a shrink to help us sort this mess out. After we poured our hearts out, I figured it was time to drop the bomb on Dad. So I gave him a buzz, left a message asking for a sit down. When he finally called back, he wanted to know if it was okay for Mom to join in on the chat. I figured, might as well let her hear it straight from the source, so I said sure. Well, as you might expect, that conversation was a complete train wreck. I didn't mince words. Jen and I are cutting them out of our lives, plain and simple. But Dad couldn't wrap his head around it. He was all, "Why are you doing this? We put in all this effort to patch things up." Yeah, right. The whole Mark disaster showed me their so-called repairs were just surface level. They're so wrapped up in Mom and my little brother Mark. It's like there's no room left for anyone else. Their favoritism toward him drove this wedge between us that's too deep to bridge. I was only on board with patching things up for Charlotte's sake, but I can't stomach the disrespect toward me and Jen any longer. We gotta put our sanity first. Then I turned to Mom. I laid it all out for her. I'm sick and tired of being her punching bag for her screw UPS, as a parent and all of Mark's nonsense. I'll never forgive her for what she did to Jen, or how she treated me and my sisters growing up. She tried to play the victim, telling me to just move on like my sisters supposedly have. But I shut that down real quick. Forgiving and forgetting ain't on the table, not after her latest stunt. She broke down, wailing about how I'm ruining her life. Well, tough luck, Mom. You made your bed, now lie in it. Then Jen jumped in, guns blazing. She didn't hold back, letting Mom have it with both barrels. Can't say I blame her, not after hearing all the garbage Mom was spewing. I don't know if Mom stormed off or just clammed up, but she went dead silent after Jen finished her piece. Dad, he chimed in too, playing the disappointed dad card. He said I'm being too hard on Mom, that I should cut her some slack. He painted this picture of Mom, struggling with us kids at each other's throats, saying I shouldn't let past mistakes get in the way of us moving forward as a family. But sorry, Dad, I'm not buying it. So I didn't mince words with Dad. I laid out the whole truth. Mom's always put Mark and herself first, no denying that. I made it clear he could keep my number if he wanted, but I was cutting off all contact with Mom and him on every platform. And with that, I hung up. Then came the email, pouring my heart out. I uninvited everyone but my aunt, uncle, and sisters from the wedding. It was a floodgate of emotions, and Jen was there, holding me tight as I let it all out. She reassured me we'd get through this storm, and my sisters reached out too after reading the email. Had to apologize to Charlotte for not keeping up with the facade of reconciliation she hoped for. But she was understanding, said it wasn't on me, and she saw why I had to slam the door shut again. Family reactions have been all over the map. Some are furious I aired our dirty laundry online, while others are pointing fingers at my parents for letting things spiral out of control. Last person I had a chat with was Mark. He wanted to know if he was on the chopping block too. I told him no, but I wasn't going to go out of my way to keep in touch either. He didn't put up a fight, just wished me well with the wedding, and that was that. Now, Jen and I are on the hunt for a new nest. We're thinking about moving closer to Jen's brother, about 3 hours from here, in a city we both have a soft spot for. Talked to my boss about the possibility of transferring, and Jen's looking into the remote work scene or maybe snagging a new job. Oh, and about the wedding venue? Changed yet again. With a smaller guest list now, my future brother-in-law might let us use his lake house. I don't plan on dropping any more updates about this mess, at least not until after we tie the knot. It's time to hit the reset button on life. But hey, I'm here if you've got any burning questions or just need to shoot the breeze. Edit. I'm already bracing for Mom's next move. She's the type to follow us if she doesn't get her way. Got a lawyer buddy looking into getting a restraining order to keep her from stirring up trouble once we move.